Hi, it's wonderful being here. Thank you, Sue, for inviting me to speak. I was supposed to be here in March, but I got an email about a week ago and they lost someone in January, so I decided to switch, and here I am. And when I was going to be here in March, I was really excited because I was doing something a little bit new in a presentation for me. I was going to speak on something called Bodies and Boundaries, the taboo of touch. And I thought, oh, it's going to be perfect for all of you, a bunch of sex therapists here in San Diego. And unfortunately, though, when Sue contacted me last week, I said, you know, there's just no way I'm going to be able to um, do the do that workshop and get it together in time. Can you choose something else that I've already spoken about? And so she chose this one, Yoga and Emotions. And I was a little bit surprised because the other ones were things on somatic therapy and dual process and parts theory. And so yoga and emotions seemed less of something that therapists might enjoy. So I wrote back and I said, I'd love to speak on it, but tell me why you chose it. And she said, well, I don't know. I think it's because my kids like yoga. And I thought, yeah, I get that. You know, my son is now a junior in college. And during his freshman years, 2 years ago, we were Skyping. You know, that's now a verb. So we were video chatting, right? And he says, Mom, look what I'm doing. And he puts his computer down on the ground and he backs up so that all I can see are kind of from his knees down. And pretty soon I see his fingertips reaching closer and closer to his knees and, oh, just beyond the knees. He says, Mom, I'm doing yoga. Now you have to understand, I was really shocked because for most of his teenage years, from like age 11 until he left for college, he would tell me, do not tell my friends that you do yoga. Don't tell them you do that yoga therapy thing or that you're a dancer. Okay, so not cool. So here he is doing yoga. And in fact, about a year later, we're also video chatting. We're Skyping it again, and he says to me, look what I'm doing now. He puts the computer down, he backs up again so I see his legs, and this time he puts his hands all the way down on the ground and kicks his legs into a handstand. He says, I'm now using yoga to help me with my breakdancing. So no longer do so now I no longer have just a regular yogi, but he's also a dancer. My son, a yogi and a dancer, just like his mom. But here's the thing. Yoga has become very popular. In fact, excuse me, yoga is being used all over the place. It's a billion-dollar industry, probably more than that now, and there's many forms of yoga. People are doing it all over the place. In fact, who here is actually doing yoga? Yeah. And what does that actually look like when you say that you're doing yoga? Right, so you're doing the postures and all. hmm Going to class. So yoga become this physical fitness thing. You're doing the postures, right? And maybe you get relaxed and you go for flexibility or maybe strength or something. So this picture here of Bikram, have you heard of Bikram yoga? Bikram yoga is where you go into a really hot studio, like 110 degrees, and a teacher kind of yells through 26 postures that you're going to do, 26 very, very sweaty postures, until you collapse in corpse pose, the final posture at the end. And Bikram is the first one to say this is a physical exercise, right? He says this is about a physical workout. So he has been very popular and has brought a lot of yoga, or what it's become, to the Western world. And he is focused on one limb of yoga, the asanas, the postures. Okay? Unfortunately, because of that, the rest of the yoga practice has been cut out of the meaning from the Western world. So what do I mean by a yoga practice? So the practice is these 8 limbs of yoga. And you move through these 8 limbs in order to find union. Yoga means to yoke or to be in union. They're sometimes used synonymously, union and yoga. So what parts of you need to be in union? Well, consider the mind, the body, and the emotions. Consider the parts of you that are in pain and that are feeling at ease, or the masculine part and the feminine part. Or, as Tom Horvath says in his book Sex, Drugs, Gambling, Chocolate, right? His book Through Smart Recovery. He says, how about the euphoria of the substance-induced euphoria, or the desire for health? So these sort of 2 parts of you. Or how about the human being part of us, and the part that then connects with others, whether it's community or town or country or world or universe or God, right? So today I'm going to speak about Phoenix Rising yoga therapy and the yoga that we use. And though we use aspects of all of the 8 limbs, I'm going to focus on the main ones for us. The niyamas is the first one. Now those are the personal observances, and they include things like saucho, which is cleanliness, or santosha, which is contentment. For us, the main one is self-study, or swadhyaya, self-study. We do use postures. You won't actually see the hands-on use here because I'm working in a group, but we are actually going to do 2 postures here. 2 postures. Are you a little concerned now? You want to know what the 2 postures are? Okay. Stand up and sit down. Those are the 2 postures. Stand up and sit down. We are in postures all the time in our life, and we get to use them for information and for making change. And standing and sitting are 2 very important postures. Pranayama. You'll notice we'll do a little bit of breath work. And then concentration and meditation. Okay, this is a mindful sort of meditation, this way of being in awareness to truly notice each and every moment. All right, so this is the yoga when it comes to Phoenix Rising yoga. But then we have this other word, therapy. And the therapy that we pull from is Carl Rogers. Now, I love Carl Rogers, and I have a very personal story that I love about him. My mom, who is a therapist, she's retired now, but she called me, it was probably about 10 years ago, back in 2013. And she called me up and she said, you know, I just found out that I have a first cousin that I never knew about, and I want us to go meet him. So we went out to lunch with this man. Now, he was 20 years older than her, which is why she really didn't know him. And when we met him, he was about 86 years old. So when we met, he was all sort of huddled up, very little man, all huddled up, his hands together. And within 10 seconds, I loved him. He was so clean and clear and precise in his language, so thoughtful and kind, so present and aware. And then I found out he was a therapist. And in this very clean and aware sort of way, he asks me, so tell me more about your work. And I proceed to talk with him about Phoenix Rising. Now, I'd only been doing it for a year or so, so I was pretty new to it. And I explained that Carl Rogers was the work that we pulled from, and he says to me, all huddled up and very gently, oh, Carl, He was my favorite student. Oh, no wonder I love Carl Rogers. If this man was his teacher, that's amazing. Here's another little tidbit about this man. He was known in the 40s and 50s as Mr. Confidentiality because he was the person who took a court case all the way up to the Supreme Court and set the precedents around confidentiality for therapists with their clients. He had refused to give up his notes on one of his clients during a court case, and he was the one who took it all the way up to the Supreme Court. There, Carl Rogers, teacher. Okay, there's that tidbit. So the really wonderful thing about Carl Rogers is his core value, which we use in Phoenix Rising. And his core value is that all of us, our clients, our patients, our students, ourselves, we all have within us what we need to know in order to heal and enhance our life. Right? It's all within us. And that as therapists or coaches or teachers or practitioners, it's up to us to facilitate a strong enough container so that our clients or patients or students can hear themselves, can hear what's really happening within them. And that no matter what shows up, no matter what they put into that container, we have unconditional positive regard, right? That was his phrase. Unconditional positive regard for that. And that our tools include active listening. All that stuff about asking what's happening now and then simply feeding it back so our clients can hear themselves. We are very pure in Phoenix Rising, and this is the work that we do when it comes to our focused dialogue and in truly honoring what shows up in that container, not pushing it away, not resisting it, whether someone's talking about a trauma or abuse or about suicide, right? All those things that we hear. Unconditional positive regard. This is one of my favorite quotes from him. Experience is for me the highest authority. It is to experience that I must return again and again to discover a closer approximation to truth as it is in the process of becoming in me. All right. So Phoenix Rising Yoga and Therapy. There is touch involved, though we're going to be working in a group today, so I won't have touch as a part of this talk. However, if you're really curious about it, come to one of my demo workshops, which I have regularly, and I have one this Saturday coming up. So, all right. So why do we do this? Why do we put yoga and therapy together? To that one, I'm going to go back. Okay, so we're going to do an experience. All right. I could sit here and talk about what Phoenix Rising is and why we do it and all that stuff, but I'd like you to have a tiny little experience. Now know that my sessions are typically 80 minutes long, and we're going to do this in about 8 minutes, okay? Maybe 10. So know that whatever experience you have may not seem very deep, or it might go really deep for you in a short time, and you might want to connect in with me afterwards. Okay? So you know the postures we're going to use, right? Standing and sitting. And we're going to start sitting. Put everything away and just find whatever seat you want to be in right now. There's no particular way to sit. Just make it one that you know you can pay attention to. All right? Which is why we don't use like laying down on the ground where you might fall asleep. Now, Phoenix Rising, for the most part, has the client's eyes are closed during the sessions. And we do that in order to support a client finding the information that they need from being inside of them, rather than when, when your clients open their eyes and you're talking to them, there's this conversation that goes on, right? And maybe they try to do something that, connects with you in some way. So we want them connecting with themselves. So we have eyes closed, or if that doesn't feel appropriate, simply soften your gaze. Just lower your lids a bit, like you're looking an inch or two in front of you. All right? So eyes are closed. Take a deep breath into the nose and just sigh it out. Take a couple of those breaths and let those breaths help you just transition. Like, let go of the outside world and start coming into your own inner world. And let the breath become more natural. No particular type of breath. Just simply notice. Be a little curious. That's really what this work's all about, just being curious. Notice the quality and the quantity of your breath. And then follow your breath into your physical body. So notice how you chose to sit. Notice where you've placed your legs and your arms. Notice parts of your body that are feeling pretty comfortable, while there might be other parts that are a little louder, a little more uncomfortable. And then notice your emotions. Notice emotions that are really close to the surface, the ones you know really well, or the ones you kind of say yes to. Yeah, I know that one. While there might be other emotions that are a little more quiet, a little deeper, maybe even pushed away. So just notice, not that emotion, not now. There's no right or wrong to this. You're really just collecting information. And then shift to notice your thoughts. There might be thoughts around, oh, I like this, or I don't like this, or am I doing it right or wrong? And that's what our mind does. It judges, it wants, it thinks about things that happened before, what might happen after. So just watch all the thinking. What parts of life show up in your thoughts? Take a deep breath in and bring all the parts of you back together again here in union, mind, emotions, body, breath, whole body once again. Now find your way to come to stand. And you can stand in any direction, in any way that you want. Really, there's no right or wrong way to stand. This is your stance right now, your stance in life, so to speak. So notice what that transition was like. Did you do it fast or slow? And where you end up landing on your feet. Once you're there, if you've opened your eyes, go ahead and close them once again. Now do a quick scan through your body. Start with your feet. Move up into your legs, into your hips and pelvis, into your torso, the front and the back of you, your shoulders, down the arms to your hands. Just notice colors, temperature, sensations, your body, your neck, your throat, head, face, your whole body here now, your whole body, head to toe, standing, breathing, whole body. Now find the part of your body that is trying to get your attention, like it's kind of loud. It might be a part that's feeling a little crunchy today. And you might notice there are a lot of parts trying to get your attention. So for today, just choose one. Choose the loudest one, or the one that seems most interesting to you right now. And if you can't find a part of you that's kind of sounds loud, then imagine a part. Like maybe it's a part that once gave you a little bit of pain in the past, or perhaps has made itself known once before. And then make this part of you a little bit bigger, like exaggerate it, really get to know it. Notice not only the sensations, but the colors of it, the weight of it, the temperature of it. Notice if your body wants to make it bigger somehow, so you exaggerate it. Like if you've got something going on in a hip, you push it out to the side, or something happening in your belly, you put a hand on your belly. So notice if you're wanting to stay really still and just imagine this part, or if you're wanting to bring a little more somatic attention to it by moving it in some way. And if this part could tell you something right now, or show you something, what does it want you to know? It might speak in words, but it might also show you in images or sensations or any other way. So how does it communicate, and what's it want you to know? Just notice if it's a voice, if it's familiar somehow, and then respond back. You know, like you're having this conversation with this part of your body. So what do you say back? And then let this part come back again. So go ahead and let that conversation go. I'm going to get quiet for a few seconds here so that you can listen to yourself. And then take a deep breath into the nose again and let it sigh out. Allow that conversation to come to a close for now. Know that more can happen later. Now find your seat once again. Once you're there, be sure to close your eyes if you needed to open them. Find your seat, place where you can still pay attention. Take a deep breath in again and sigh it out. Just notice that transition. And just begin to go through everything that just happened since you first closed your eyes or softened your gaze. What is it that stands out about what you just went through? What stands out about it? And then what does this have to do with your life right now? Like, what's the connection between what's standing out here, what you just went through, and what's happening in your life outside of here? I'm going to bet that it's showing up because it's somehow showing up not just here, but out there with work or relationships or your health. And then what might you do? What might you do? Some action you might take today or tomorrow to help support what you just learned. One little baby step, so not something really big, but something that's really doable to really support you. Take a deep breath into your nose and sigh it out once again, and just acknowledge your body for showing up just as it did. Just as it did. And then open your eyes and come back into the room. Just acknowledge those around you and me up here. So do you know that our bodies change our minds and how that happens? You know, 25 to 30% of all physical illnesses are psychogenically based. So this isn't about, you know, something that's just in your head, right? The loud part wasn't just in your head. It's actually sitting in your nervous system. And that's where the brain extends down into the body. So it's not fake pain, it's real pain. It's really pain in the nervous system. So many of you as therapists might notice that, you know, after several sessions with a client, your client comes in and they actually feel physically better. So there's this wonderful TED Talk by Amy Cuddy. She's a social psychologist from Harvard University, a professor there. And her research was all on how the body actually does change the mind and how we use that, how we bring awareness into engagement. So we know that the mind can change the bodies. Placebo is one of those ways that happen. But here is a tool for having the body actually change the mind. The signal goes in both directions. And if you increase the awareness of the body, you can then change what's happening in the mind. This is a great TED Talk. If you have an opportunity to listen to it, I highly recommend it. Specifically, Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy then is this somatic process. And it takes you from the basic awareness, somatic awareness, what's happening now in your body and being aware. Like you might use that if for those of you who are referring to the body. Oh, what's happening now in your body? It's a great starting place, but then Phoenix Rising is really great at taking what's happening in the body and using it. And the way that we do that is through these triple A's: awareness, acceptance, and action, right? Awareness, acceptance, and action. And the process that you just went through, even though it was just 8 minutes long, is the process that we use in Phoenix Rising, and it includes a centering. That was where I had you notice what's happening in your body, your mind, and emotions. We include the spiritual body as well, but for time's sake, I kept that out. So where are you right now? That basic somatic awareness, right? And then using a posture, and the posture I used was standing up, right? And finding that part of you that's kind of loud, like what's going on in that posture that makes it interesting. And then not pushing that away, but actually moving towards that, right? By exaggerating it and acknowledging it and having a conversation with it. Not trying to change it or do anything with it, but just acknowledging, yeah, you're there. And then the integration part, which gets to lets you see everything that just happened and has you pick something that's really important. And then finding out, why is it important? Because it's probably connected into life somehow. And then what are you going to do about it? What's your action? Because it doesn't matter what you find on the mat or in the chair. It's how you're then going to be in life outside of here. Okay, so awareness, acceptance, action through our steps of centering, postures, and integration. Now the postures, as I said, we did a hands-off posture, but here are 4 different pictures of postures that might be used, right, when someone is working within a certain part of the body. So for example, the first posture with me working at the leg, that's a great one for the hip and low back. The one below that is a great chest opener. What if like my guy who had the paddles, you know, to resuscitate him, all his pain was in his chest. We've done this posture. It's a big one. Okay. The other ones are moving through other postures and finishing. All right. So there's the process. Now, Before we go into sharing and speaking and any questions and all, I want to tell you why I do this work. Back in 2001, I got laid off from high tech. I asked to get laid off because I was totally burned out and stressed out. I had been in high tech for 20 years. And for most of those years, about 18 of those years probably, I was in chronic back pain. Now, sometimes it was just a little bit, but more often it was pain that could lay me out for days. And there wasn't anything they could necessarily find wrong with me, though I went to a lot of doctors. I also had migraines for several years, though those seemed to go away when I got divorced. Go figure. I also had a bout with cancer. Now, my body was really speaking a lot, and so I went to doctors. And they were helping with the cancer and the migraines and the pain and trying to do what they could. But at the same time, I didn't seem to be very enthusiastic for life. I was pretty ho-hum. Things were okay, but I didn't have a whole lot of joy. My son brought me joy. That was about it. That was the big contrast for me. So I always thought I wasn't very emotional. Yep, I didn't have emotions. But I knew something was wrong with me, so off and on I was going to therapists during that time. And it's really fascinating because for the whole time, whenever I went to a therapist, no one ever asked me, what's going on in your body? And when I went to the medical doctors, no one asked me, what's going on in your life? When was the last time you played or laughed, right? How telling that would have been. So by the time I got laid off, and again, I requested to get laid off. I knew I was done, and I needed my severance package. So I left high tech, and it took about 9 months before I found Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy. I knew I wanted to move into something that would create better health for me. And when I found Phoenix Rising, I knew right away that it was it. The way that it merged the body and the mind and the emotions for me was huge. Because I love my brain. I love working with it. And I'm an old dancer. I like my body. But they were pretty disparate parts. They certainly were not in yoga. They were not in union. So I found Phoenix Rising. I called them up right away. I gave them my credit card. And I thought at the time, this is my career change. This is it. I have now left the high-tech world. I'm going to go through all this training, and then I'm going to start my private practice. It was going to be a professional change. Only that wasn't the big change. The big change was that this was a personal thing. My life changed significantly when I started paying attention to myself, when I started taking care of myself, when I started bringing the attention into my relationships and into my work. For my health, my back pain went away in 1 week. 1 week, right? That's a whole other story, and I won't get into it now. You can come to one of my demos, and I'll probably talk about it there. So I am passionate about self-care because I know that if I don't take care of myself, I can't do this work. And not only am I passionate about it for myself, but I'm passionate about it for therapists, specifically therapists. I don't know. My mom's a therapist. I'm a therapist. Mr. Confidentiality was a therapist. But I work often with therapists. I work most often with therapists, whether I'm training them or they're a student of mine or I'm mentoring them or they're a client. And it's therapists, all of you who are so good at taking care of others and putting yourself last. So, I have a couple things for you. I have this website. It's been up on the screen, carefortherapist.com. It's got a full self-care center. Okay, there's a stretch clock on it. There's online. There's the centering, a full body scan, a full integration. Okay, go on there and use them. Centering is great at the beginning of a day. Body scan's great in between clients if you got about, I think it's 10 minutes long. And the integration is wonderful to do at the end of the day. Or when you're stuck in something, you can't figure something else out, do the integration. So go to my self-care center at carefortherapist.com. And then there's more, right? Then there's more. I've alluded to the hands-on workshop, the Taste of Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy workshop that I have this Saturday, actually, from 9 to 11. And so that is where we will dive into what it's like to actually put touch and dialogue together. That's fully experiential, and you're going to do the full body scan in that, and it's very interesting how we do it. Therapists are always surprised how we do it and why we do it the way we do it. So I hope you join me on that. I'm giving $10 off of that today. Okay, so it's $10 for that class, 2-hour class. If you pay me today, I need to know how many people are going to come. So if you don't have the $10 today, sign up for it and then pay me through PayPal or whatever tomorrow. We'll work that out. Okay, $10 today. Now, the best way really is to work privately. You know that. But it's not like you need a ton of sessions. You need to learn the practice and develop it for yourself, and then you take it away and you got it. Okay? I give a special to therapists only that is $50 off of 2 sessions. Now, my sessions are 80 minutes long, and I charge $125. Okay? So $50 off of 2, that's $200 for 2 sessions. I highly recommend you use the 2 sessions for yourself, but if you want to split it with someone, I'll let you do that. At least you guys here today. All right? I have trainings for therapists. Okay. This year in San Diego, there's in September to October. And I've given you brochures so you can look at that more. Now, I am available to talk more tomorrow. Like if something showed up, we don't have that much time right now, but if something showed up today and you got really curious, you don't have to do a private session with me. Just call me tomorrow. I have time. I'm working on my computer tomorrow. Friday I'm booked and Saturday I'm booked. So give me a call tomorrow. You have my card. All right. Few resources here you might be interested in. Turn Stress into Bliss is the Phoenix Rising 8-week mindful program. Okay, and we have a book on it. So this is the 8-week. Have you heard of John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction program? Yeah, great program. Ours, this is very similar in format. 8 weeks long, a full day of silence in the middle of the 8 weeks. What I like about ours is, one, we have a book that goes along with it, but 2, we also have themes that go along for each 8 weeks, and I love these themes. We also have a little more movement than John does in his programs, but our themes run along the lines of, it starts with befriend the body, right? We're starting with the body, so befriend the body. Week 2 is awareness of thoughts and emotions. Week 3 is acceptance. Sound familiar? Week 4 is choice. How do we make our choices, and how do we make considered choices? Like that action is a considered choice. Rather than being reactive, you get to be responsive. So that comes into choice, and then it goes on from there. If you're curious about how Buddhism and yoga come together, there's a wonderful appendix in The Wisdom of Yoga by Stephen Cope. Okay, that's in the appendix. However, this book is really excellent to find a way anecdotally. He's a therapist, but he's a big teacher at Kripalu as well. So this is really applied yoga, really a great way to apply yoga in life. And then we didn't talk of depression. Amy Weintraub, who wrote Yoga for Depression, is one of the best resources, and I highly recommend her and her books. She also has a wonderful training. She's a big supporter of Phoenix Rising as well. All right. So we're going to move into Q&A now, and I'm going to shut off my mic and allow that to happen. If you're listening online, then thank you for listening. I hope this worked well for you.